This water conduit is located within the territory of the city, diving under the modern railway line, passing along the remains of the northeastern city wall in the area of the destroyed and technically not existing nowadays Gates Arno. Here is located the first technological well, which a couple of years ago for some reason was hidden from the outside world behind barriers of 2 meters in height. The following well, covered by metal grid, is well visible at sidewalk of the Via dell'Abbondanza. Passing under the eastern end of Via dell'Abbondanza, where the line of the conduit across the street surface is obvious, the water conduit goes in the closed section where at present an experimental agriculture field is located. Here, behind the tall wall, the third well of the water conduit is located, and almost immediately after it, about 20 meters along the water conduit, there is some strange installation, looking like a water mill. Archaeologists call this installation Bourbon water lift. However, there is no map of Pompeii, neither from the Bourbon period, nor from any other later period, indicating the existence of any well or water lift along the route of the water conduit within the city walls. Initial excavations of this block were done in 1955. However, the results of these were never published. Further along its route, the water conduit crosses under the ground the street Vicolo dell'Anfiteatro, the Villa Giulia Felice under Sazzello, Vicolo di Giulia Felice, and goes in the form of an open canal to the garden of Casa delle Viniere in Conchiglia from the site of Palestro Grande. Then the water conduit dives under the street Vicolo delle Viniere and almost immediately follows the next well on the crossing of Via di Castrico and Vicolo di Octavius Quartio in front of a garden gate. Here it can easily be seen that the water conduit passes at a significant depth immediately under the ground, and its well is equipped with stone steps built in one of the side walls and inclined downwards. Going under the Sama Triclinium, the water conduit roughly crosses Via di Nocera. This is the only place along the water conduit where there is evidence of destruction of the street surface. After the water conduit goes under the streets Vicolo dei Fuggiaschi and Vicolo della Nave Europa, and has wells in the yards of some houses without touching any buildings. In the next block, the water conduit can be seen in a Sama Triclinium projecting from the initial floor level. Leaving the triclinium, it somehow mysteriously appears at the door opening, not damaging the side walls. Crossing the inner courtyard of House of the Arches, the water conduit disappears into the non-excavated area, which is closed for tourists. Indeed, satellite pictures show that there are at least 2 more wells in this area, and one of them is quite big and quite similar to the Bourbon water lift we mentioned above. In front of the house of the Menander is the next well. In the garden of the house of the Menander, in its northwest corner, at the peristyle, initially was another well of the water conduit, which nowadays, thanks to efforts of the restorers, does not exist anymore. Going under house of the Menander, the water conduit presents a surprise. In the cross-street Vicolo del Chitarrista, on the pavement, leaning against the wall of the house of the Menander, there is a well associated with the water conduit with a side door. The next well has, in addition, a window on one of its walls. The question is how the workers could plaster shaft from outside if they were laying out the vertical shaft from inside, and why would they need a window under the ground? Further, about 12 meters away, there is the next well located at the Thermopolium, and then the water conduit goes deeper stepwise under Via Stebiana. On the opposite side of the street, in the courtyard of a temple of Aesculapius, is one more well, obviously having an adjacent access from the next house, Casa dello Scultore, with modern grille on the side entrance. Archaeologists calling it a big well over a system of underground tanks, and again do not make any connection of the well with the water conduit. Going under the temple of Asclepius, the water conduit again appears in front of us in the courtyard of the temple of Isis and Palestra Sanitica. The next well is located directly in the pavement of the street Vicolo delle Pareti Rosse. It is deep enough and closed by a stone grid. Turning around Edificio di Omachia, the water conduit passes under the Forum near the Temple of Apollo and heads westward, leaving Pompeii. Some early travelers who visited Pompeii in 18th and 19th century describe another well of the water conduit on the Forum. This well was also mentioned in the 1817 excavation logbooks. However, we were not able to find this well, unfortunately. Probably all wells of the water conduit in the western part of Pompeii are rather deep and have only vertical access, like that one on the Vicolo delle Pareti Rosse. Therefore it is difficult to notice them. At the exit of Pompeii, the water conduit opens an L-shaped well, which has steps and side entrance. This well is located in an area that is forbidden for tourists. There is a whole chain of such wells outside Pompeii. The depth of the water conduit is not very considerable with respect to the zero level of Pompeii, and with some exceptions, it always goes under streets, house walls, and carefully goes around more or less important hieratic facilities. Until the beginning of the excavations, none of these wells was indicated on the earlier topographical maps of Pompeii because all wells were discovered only during the excavation, and most of them were not discovered until 20th century. The structure and exterior of the water conduit leaves no room for doubts that it was constructed mainly in the trench method under open skies and not in the shaft method through horizontal tunneling. The canal of Domenico Fontana had to be searched for and dug up after the eruption of Vesuvius in 1631. And this was done, but it took more than 20 years. Outside of the city walls of Pompeii, the canal was practically dug out anew. Since it was built under the ground of Pompeii, the water conduit was not destroyed. This confirms again the fact that Pompeii and its surroundings were covered with ashes not earlier than 1631, because no other considerable layer of ashes over Pompeii under which the water conduit could disappear was found. Therefore, we could draw the conclusion that the city of Pompeii that is now excavated is the city that was destroyed by the eruption of Vesuvius in 1631. This is directly confirmed by the epitaph of the time in Torre del Greco, where Pompeii is mentioned along with Herculaneum, Resina, and Portici in the list of cities destroyed by this eruption. Definitive conclusions could be drawn when the remaining sections of the water conduit are excavated and the water conduit itself is explored by experts. Also, it's desirable that all logbooks and reports from the 20th century excavations were published and became available to the general public.